Welcome to IAS Market Talk, your trusted source for timely ag market insights, brought to you by Innovative Ag Services. Each week, we break down the latest beef market trends impacting Northeast Iowa and Southwest Wisconsin, with expert updates tailored specifically for our IAS members. This week, you'll hear directly from Dave Rueber, IAS Beef Production Specialist, who brings decades of experience and deep knowledge of the cattle industry to these conversations. Dave has been providing market updates to producers for years, and now he's bringing those insights straight to you through this podcast. Tune in weekly for what you need to know straight from people you know. With that, here's Dave Rueber with the latest on what's happening in the cattle markets this week.
David Rueber, Beef Production Specialist for Innovative Ag Services, calling with a beef market commentary for July 29th. Probably big news this week, unfortunate news, and it's local news. The cattle processing plant in Postville had, by the looks of the video and pictures, a pretty massive fire early Tuesday morning. While not being a large processing facility, it's still a facility that was in our area and had been around for quite some time. It did changed ownership a little bit here in the last few years, but a plant that continues to be a processor. So by the looks of it, it's going to be closed down for quite some time. So that's kind of rough. You throw that in conjunction with Solderton, Pennsylvania being shut down, and the Nebraska plant, and the plant out at Fort Morgan that hasn't been operating for a month and a half now. That those harvesting numbers continue to kind of get less and less and less. So kind of one more thing out there, just kind of chipping away at this market. Cash cattle last week were softer again, mainly in that 230 to 232 range, call it, $6-7 cheaper than the week before. It feels like this week is kind of a line in the sand that this market stabilizes. There really hasn't been much trade yet. The board's been supportive the last 2 days, up $1 or $2, today and up a little bit earlier in the week as well. So feels like we're kind of holding in here. Box beef values maybe kind of holding the line as well. If there's such a thing as normal cattle markets, we're almost what you would call a normal seasonal market, which historically speaking, July and August, you kind of struggle to move cattle. Packers act like they're doing you a favor buying them from you. It's just kind of tough. There's basically 1 week that they're aggressive out of every 3 weeks, and that kind of feels like what we got going. They'll be buying product here in the next week or so that will be Labor Day beef. So, keep that in mind. That's something that I don't think they're sitting on a ton of inventory. Some packers pretty short bought. So, yeah, I don't expect the market to be $6 higher this week, but I think we're steady to maybe a tick stronger. Like I said, there's really no trade yet, but I expect it somewhere in the low 230s, but that's my speculation at this point. So kind of watch things, see where we're at. Hopefully this kind of stabilizes things and we go forward. Feeder cattle, that's a market that has kind of been grinding lower. Good 8-weight steers will run you in the 330s, 340s. They're $20, $25 cheaper than they were a month ago. They're still overpriced relative to what the deferred futures are. Break evens on these new cattle that are getting bought are running in the 230s, as opposed to the 240s and 250s that they were, 3-4 weeks ago. So break evens have gotten lower. Deferred futures have gotten lower. They're all kind of doing what they do. Feeder cattle never drop quite as fast as what live cattle do. So that's always kind of a little bit of a lag there. And also there just isn't enough feeder cattle out there for the demand is still pretty good and the supply is pretty tight. Those feeder cows just aren't going to drop probably as aggressively as they should with what the market has done. So yeah, feels like we're kind of hopefully get some footing here. Cost of gains, utilizing a little bit more than $1. That corn market's a tick higher than what it had been. It's shown a little bit of weakness here the last few days, but I'm still using a little more than $1 for steers and $7, 8, 9 for heifers for cost of gains. Hay markets work just a tick higher. Corn obviously up a little bit. Wet feed's still priced pretty competitive, so that's helping those cost of gains. The heat was tough on stuff. We had a little bit of death loss out there, not Not a lot of big deals, but, just tough on cattle. You start talking heat indexes north of 100. That's rough. I heard on the radio some folks talking about Des Moines had like the second highest heat index that they'd ever had, with that dew point being so crazy high there earlier this week. So just been tough. We got a little bit of break going on right now. Cattle kind of get used to some heat, but boy, you string together 2, 3, 4 days of that nasty weather. It's definitely tough on them. So, yeah, keep moving stuff through. Feeder cattle a little bit softer. Cost of gains kind of holding the line, and looks like fat cattle kind of steady out here. Once again, my name is David Rueber, Beef Production Specialist for Innovative Ag. Thank you.
That's it for this week's episode of IAS Market Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an update. And if you know a fellow producer who could benefit from this information, share this episode with them. For more updates and insights, visit innovativeag.com and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We'll catch you next time on IAS Market Talk.
Are you ready for a hands-on role with purpose? Join the facility operations team at Innovative Ag Services, where we value hard work, safety, and community. With locations across Northeast and Central Iowa and Southwest Wisconsin, we offer industry-leading benefits, on-the-job training, and a culture that supports your growth. From competitive pay to a uniform allowance, we invest in our team. Grow with IAS and discover your co-opportunity. Apply today at innovativeag.com.